Today's guest is Andy Gottlieb, who is the founder of Sandwell, based in New York City. Andy previously worked in finance, sous chef at some of the top places in New York, was a CFO of a hospitality group, and ultimately left to start his own sandwich shop business. I've had a couple of Andy sandwiches in the Upper West Side location and can vouch that they are delicious and also healthy-ish. Andy, thanks so much for joining the Opening Soon podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks, Alan.
All right. Well, we'd love to hear a little bit more about how you all got started. Why did you decide to leave your career in finance and just start cooking?
Sure. So when I was back in college, was working in finance, enjoyed it, was working at banks and internships, and I'd always cooked for fun. I'd always enjoy that. I'd always cook for friends. I'd cook for the teams. I'd always found a release in that, right? Where in the everyday parts of life, everything else is busy, but things seemed to slow down when I was cooking. Ironically, I wasn't very good at it when I was young, but I liked the process more than anything else. And it's something that as I was looking towards it and I was looking to graduate, I had a job at a big bank. And in doing so, I worked my way through restaurants my whole time in school. And I took a minute where I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Who do want to be around? And I loved the people in restaurants. That really was it for me, right? I like cooking. I liked the people. And it was something that was really tangible for me of that kind of experience where I enjoyed a long shift working and had fun afterwards.
Yeah.
And so that was something I found. I was really thinking, why am I doing this and what do I have going on? So I was 21 and I was like, oh, the bank will always be there. That'll be fine. And so I gave back my signing bonus instead and went to culinary school afterwards. You
So
know,
you didn't go you didn't even start.
yeah, I worked in internships and I worked in yeah, different banks all through school, but
Mm,
I hadn't officially started. And as I was about to, I said, look, I think I want to go down this path instead, and we'll see what's
wow.
there. It ended up being, I was working on the CDO desk that was right before the economy crashed in 2008. So I think the whole floor was empty in 6 months anyways. If I'd known that, maybe I could have done something. But I didn't have that good of intuition. I just knew I really liked where I was at and what I was doing in restaurants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also I enjoy cooking too. I find it therapeutic. I find making things with your hands, and oftentimes you're eating and making things for other people and
Hmm.
having a communal table and friends and family. It is very therapeutic and it's almost meditative. And I enjoy it as well. Uh, Going from there to not even taking, a nice finance job
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
big leap, though.
Sh- for
How,
sure.
how did how did that happen?
I think it was going from there. And again, I paid my way through school working in restaurants. And I liked that managed chaos because you're also able to escape into that, right? Where on a busy restaurant service, it's different than cooking at home, right? Where you have some friends around, whatever it might be. Even on a busy restaurant, though, you're in the rhythm of the people around you. You have to be in tune and in sync of how that goes. And I found that very entrancing. Like I really enjoyed that because even though there was, it's a different kind of meditative state, right, of what was going on, but it was certainly this feeling of being able to do that and then having the immediate reaction from people, right? And in a restaurant business, I found that immediate feedback where someone enjoyed it, they didn't. Something's burned or it's not. And these are things that I really found that to be something that was worth pursuing, right? And again, I was 21. I said, look, we'll see what happens. Life is long. And I'm so happy I did because even though I'm still a finance geek at heart, right? I still wake up and read the journal every morning, but I like this element as well, being able to balance it and being able to have an expression within
Cool.
restaurants as well with food.
And so where did you end up doing culinary school?
I went to the FCI in Lower Manhattan, the French
Okay,
Culinary Institute.
cool. So
Yep.
how long was culinary school? How
It
was that
was
experience?
it was pretty quick. It was something that I found. When people ask me now, should I go to a culinary school? How does it go? It was a 9 month experience for me, right? It was part time. I worked at restaurants while I was there. And it really just teaches you a shared vocabulary, I felt, so I could walk into a restaurant and still be and somewhat understand what was happening, right? So but it doesn't, people sometimes go into culinary school and walk out and say, now I'm a master chef. It's like, oh no, buddy, that's a minute, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that was very helpful for me as I went through it, was just helping me understand how when I was switching careers to go into, or switching to something I hadn't trained for that much before, helped me walk in with a sense of understanding of what I was really getting into and what I wanted to do within the field.
Yeah. Um, did going through that experience sort of confirm or deny any prior beliefs that you had about becoming a professional chef or working in the industry? I know you had already
Sure.
in college, but what were some of the learnings?
I feel like, so it's interesting. I feel like every 7, 8 years, there's this transition where everything I think I knew is a little bit different. And that
Yeah.
might just be getting old, you know, as I've gone through this process. But it's something that, through there, it really confirmed that I wanted to work in restaurants. It really confirmed that I wanted to work with people who work in restaurants. It confirmed that I wanted to be a part of this community of this incredible group that in serving people, right? And finding that passion for that was real. And I think that was the biggest, as a binary one or zero. Do I want to keep on going or not? Um, the very first day of culinary school, they give you a set of really dull knives, and I almost took my finger off. And it was
Wow.
this moment where I was sitting there in the room going, oh no, no, what am I doing? Do you think I can call the managing director back? And
Yeah.
it was this moment where I was like, okay, it was like I believe in choice, right? And you have this sense of intentionality to life and saying, okay, you know what? I really want to do this. How am I going to go about it? How am I going to be successful doing this? I should probably learn how to sharpen my knives. And these are the processes that have gone through that. Now, how that has evolved, at least for me, has been different. When I was 21 years old, I thought the be all and end all was to run a 3 Michelin star restaurant and have 40 courses on the menu. I run a sandwich shop now. And there's been a path that has gone through that process, to help get there and to learn the skill sets along the way. But I think that it definitely helped me realize that it's something I want to do. I think I saw some other people who they thought it was a bit more romantic than they realized, right? They walk in and they saw Bobby Flay and they said, "Whoo, I like that guy, and he's cool, but he's worked incredibly hard to get to where he is, and they make you
Yeah.
clean all the potatoes first."
I see.
Some people did not like.
Yeah. Well, I know you worked at quite a few restaurants between now and back then, but maybe go through some of the highlights or walk us through some of the experiences that were most impactful to you to get to where you are today.
Sure. Um, after I was in school, I went to college in DC, and I went back
Georgetown, right?
to Georgetown, correct?
Okay.
Um,
I've also noticed that there's quite a few. I mean, so the Sweet Green founders are also from Georgetown. Is there
they
something about Georgetown that I don't know creates restaurateurs or food founders or something of that sort?
and Hannah Chang from Mimi Chang's was also at Georgetown in my year.
Wow.
Um, they, I think I was a part of the business school there, finance and
Hmm.
accounting, and I think there's a wonderful entrepreneurship program there, and a sense of really taking almost within the undergraduate business school, taking a lot of almost a liberal arts in business. So it's not just only taking finance, but you have to take a broad sense of these classes. And they opened the Sweet Green on my block senior year, 40 feet from my house. Um, I thought the frozen yogurt was the best part. What did I know? And
Wow.
because the guys were a year older than me. But it was, I don't know, like to think so as we've gone through this. The food in the campus wasn't that good, so maybe we had to find it elsewhere. We had to
I
create.
see. There you go.
Sorry, Leos. And uh, So I went back to DC when I was there, and I worked with a former White House chef, Frank Ruda, who was really rooted in some incredibly old school traditions, right? And it's something that I found extremely formative through that process of there's really no shortcuts, right? You can have
Hmm.
choices of how you want to cook, and you can make those decisions in what you're doing, but it really is the art of how to make this food truly delicious and soulfully delicious using these traditional methods. And it was part of this, nouvelle cuisine of this modern American Italian hybrid that's popular close to 20 years ago, man. And that was there. And it really has stuck with me of some of these things of how do you build that into flavor, make it feel fresh, make it feel modern,
Yeah,
but have that be the presentation almost, but have the actual basis be old school cooking. Um, and one of the things, the healthiest part has come later in life as I've gone through it, but he had cooked for a lot of presidents because he worked in the White House, and he'd been tasked by first ladies to make things without red meat. And
mm,
so how do you make turkey just fantastic and not just that weird turkey burger, right? How do you make the chicken the star of the show rather than the thing people order because it's the bottom of the menu that, okay. And I think it's something that really helped me understand that and find these techniques to celebrate these ingredients for themselves rather than trying to make it into a facsimile of something else, rather than trying to, I've never understood the things that are just trying to be the something version of that is weird, right? Everything impossible or chicken with apostrophes or whatever it might be.
sure.
But taking these foods and just making them awesome in their own right and knowing how the gameness of turkey can be um, complemented by different herbs and spices and cooking techniques, again, rather trying to mask it. And I think it's something that it's really strongly stuck with me of how to just celebrate flavors for what they are as I've gone through that. Um, so it was there. So I spent a while there, and I spent a long time thinking that would take those and translate those into other restaurants or whatever I would do, and I hadn't really envisioned a life without cooking. And I found out when I was about 25, 26, that I had to have reconstructive foot surgery on both my feet. I had just a natural
You said reconstructive foot surgery?
on both my feet.
Wow.
I had naturally, like my feet were a little wonky, and then I played rugby in school and had brothers and had over the years I had some issues, and they're like, "Look, you work on your feet 15 hours a day. This is not great." And so I had to be off my feet because they had to take each foot apart, put it back together, recover, and then do the other one. And so I was off my feet for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
And it was what I thought was going to be the worst experience of my life. And it turned out to be this weird blessing in disguise that life works in mysterious ways. Because I ended up working with a friend who was opening 7 restaurants at once, all in DC. I needed help managing the financing and managing the build outs and from a chef's perspective, what to do. And I all of a sudden I was like, okay, thanks, let's do this. And I realized I love building restaurants. I just loved it. And I realized there was a life to this business that was perhaps beyond a kitchen. It can be, yeah, I love being in a kitchen, but also what else goes into this? I had never really thought about that. I spent every waking moment thinking about ingredients, thinking about techniques, thinking about, okay, what if we pair this with that? But
Hmm.
not, well, okay, how do you design a kitchen intelligently? How do you have the right flow so that it goes smoothly? How do you market something? How do you finance something? All things that you need to do for a restaurant to be successful rather than just the best, dish you might find.
Yeah.
And it was
What in what
incredibly
period
eye-opening.
was
Yeah.
this?
This was 15 years ago, maybe. Yeah. So it was something that I was still in DC. I was doing that, and I found that to be so beyond eye-opening and unexpected. I thought it was gonna be the longest year of my life, and I was making plans for grand parties. I could cook all the food when I was walking again and there. And instead, I found myself, hobbling through these half-built restaurants, loving the process and loving. It's a great, I don't recommend loving opening restaurants. It's a intense time sometimes, but of going through all these processes. But it's something that I found intrinsically satisfying. Because it's a puzzle. What's the budget? What do you not have in the budget? What do you have to spend money on? What do you find as a vintage thing that adds that complementary character? Every aspect of this, I just found that.
Yeah. I mean, all those experiences sound like they probably will set you up really well for starting your own business. Obviously, with having built many restaurants with other people's dimes and then the foundational experience at the White House. You are also, it looks like you also did like some property management as well, and then were a CFO. So then you got really deep in the weeds of like the numbers. Could you describe a
That's
little
right.
bit about that experience as well?
Sure. So, I moved back to New York to be with my girlfriend, now wife. And um, when I was there, we actually lived in the West Village above the Little Owl.
Mm,
And we would walk our dog at night, and her favorite person in the world was Joey Campanero, the chef at Little Owl, because he would sit outside and pet her and give her meatballs on the side. And so she loved Joey more than me, this dog, than but more than anyone else in this world. And we would get to talking. We'd have a glass of wine, we'd hang out, and over time we became close. We would have this relationship. Again, we lived 2 floors above the restaurant. Our families became close, and that was a natural development in our dynamic. We got to talking. He was looking for a CFO, so I was advising him a little bit of what that might look like. I said, "Look, here's some things you might need." And after a little while, he said, "Well, you've described all these things. I don't know if you noticed this. You just described yourself. Is that is that something you might be interested in?" And it was such a natural feeling that I've taken with me strongly is this ability to, I don't know if I've looked for a job for however how long, but to have this sense instead of having these organic conversations of what's next and um, working with these people, of things that feel right.
yeah.
And it was natural. I loved his restaurants. I loved partner Mike Price. I loved being in the village, and it's something that was incredibly fun and rewarding of this balance. Because again, still a finance nerd, always will. And having how do I help this restaurant group be the best version of themselves? How do I, even if I wasn't cooking, right? How do I help them find their success in other ways? How do I enable the teammates for success? How do I really embody hospitality throughout the company so that it naturally flows to our customers, right? And I learned, I worked with them for 8 years, and it's something that really that is truly ingrained in me is how do you have hospitality every step of the way? How do you have that be the core of what you do so that everything else comes together, right?
Yeah.
Everything else, I remember being a young chef and I couldn't understand why some restaurants are popular and others weren't. I didn't get it. I said, well, this place objectively has a better burger, but this place is always busy. And I
Mm,
didn't really understand the service element or the hospitality element and how critical that is to um, in order to be successful is to not just to your guests, but to have it be an energy, a vibe throughout the group that creates this dynamic of warmth and positivity that turns into real business, right? And it sounds cheesy, but it turns into
hmm.
the things you invest in as a CFO and get excited about. Um,
What would you say the if there's a pie chart of 100%, food is a piece, hospitality and service is the other piece. Um, how would you split that in terms of importance? And maybe there's another piece in there too, but
um, I feel like it is, you have to have a good product because you can be super nice and the kindest people ever. And if you just put something weird out there, it's like, oh man,
yeah,
they're nice, but
sure.
right. Um, but I don't think it's a pass fail. You either have to have it all or it's a tough sledding.
Mm,
Right? So even if it's you have to have of that pie chart, 60% the product, but I think there's hospitality. I don't know if the number adds up to 100 because they're all, these all these large numbers. I think you have to deliver on a consistent basis that you live with rather than just pretend, right? So I think another element in there is all of the unsung things that make it a frictionless experience. So
mm,
it's hospitality in that it is designed to make it feel smooth to the customer, but it's not just how you're nice and how you steps of service and the way you answer people on the phone. It's also, okay, how do we go through all the steps you never see that make it feel natural when someone walks in the door? They don't see someone polishing the brass for hours. They don't see the relationship with the vendors that make that happen so that all the
mm.
food comes in timely. Whatever it may, I think all of those aspects, it's like the analogy of the duck on the water, where the duck is just chilling and underneath the feet are going crazy, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's something, those three elements combining of operations, product, and or systems, product, and kind of soul, for lack of a better term, I think all combined is this triumvirate to help deliver a good hospitality restaurant experience.
yeah. That makes sense. I like that. Were there other, I don't know, interesting keynotes or lessons that you can impart on the audience from being a CFO for 7, 8 years in a hospitality group? Because we have a lot of restaurant owners or aspiring restaurant owners who I'm sure would love to be able to pick your brain about some of these things.
It is something that it's a cliche for a reason. It's know your numbers and know going in, right? It's not this sense of this is what I could do. It's what do you have to do to do
Mm,
this? It's a cash business.
yeah.
And a lot of restaurants have this idea, well, if I can do 150 people a night, this would be amazing. I can buy a boat. Here we are, right? And or just like have the restaurant that I've always wanted, right? And say, okay, what I get that. What do you need to spend to keep your lights on, right? How do you need to do that? And then how do you work backwards from there to make sure that you have those things covered and
Mm,
you're able to continue so that you can infuse that with your art, infuse that with the things you believe in and feel strongly about. But make sure that you are really looking at these key numbers and cash metrics to help you survive through those times,
yeah.
right? Because I think just a spreadsheet's it worth doing and going through the process and saying we could do this, but what do you need if you this is your rent and this is how many cooks you need and staff you need? How are you able to support them all and have this responsibility to do that? Um, is something that a lot of restaurateurs find out the third week they're open.
Mm,
And they go through it and they go, "Ooh, gotta pay payroll every week. This is tough." But what if it was what if it was a snowstorm, right? And
yeah.
it's these are the things that in going through it, if you're planning in advance through it, it's never it helps it never be as bad as it is, or you think it's never as good as it is, right? Because your holiday party, that's that you use that money to pay your January rent, not
Mm,
not some you know massive thing.
yeah. Um, how has the rise of TikTok, social media changed your perspective on marketing and spend on marketing? Because I think maybe historically it's obviously find a good location, get good food, great hospitality, good service. But now, you have restaurants going viral, right? And, they bring in thousands or tens of thousands of customers over the next few months, depending on how viral it is. How do you think about that balance?
I think about sustainability, and I think that it's a wonderful thing for a lot of businesses where you don't. It's been democratized to a certain extent, where it's not just you open a business, you hope the New York Times reviews you, and you go from there, right? There was a model where you opened for a long time, up until like maybe 2010, 2012, where you open, you do all the right things, you have the PR talk to all the right people, you spend a fortune on that, right? And then you do some word of mouth marketing, but there wasn't a ton of digital marketing back then, right? And you hope for the best. And it was high risk, high reward for restaurants doing that as you went through it, waiting for these things. And I think the ability to have social media do these, and TikTok, where people can directly create content and talk to their potential customer base is wonderful. You're able to have this direct relationship and get to know somebody on a more, depends on the content, more organic basis rather than just what you see on magazine clipping or that. I will say a lot of, if we but for better or for worse, I don't know. This is what we've approached it as, is you have to be sustainable with it.
Hmm.
So, when we opened, I made the conscious decision not to do that because I made the first couple thousand sandwiches with my own hands because I wanted to
Nice.
experience that process. I wanted to see what is there. We were busy because our neighborhood is awesome. We're on the Upper West Side for our first location where I live now, and our neighbors came out to support us, which was great. But if there was a line 2 blocks down and I'm still trying to workshop what we're doing, and I can with each one make a great sandwich because I'm doing it myself, it would have been harder, right? It would have been a hard first impression, and doesn't set the tone for who and what a business is. And I think that's an important element of this as we've gone through it is, you can have a viral hit and have tens of thousands of customers come in, and that could be life changing, right? Because if you've got a decent check average, that's a ton of money you didn't see coming before that can change what you do and what you're able to be perceived as. But they're not always sustainable customers. They're not always people going to come back a second time. That's on you, right? Not you, Alan. You're good. But the
Yeah.
that's on the business to turn that one time thing into a repeat thing and into a customer who's going to come back the next time they're in one of your neighborhoods or whatever you have. And so, it's something we balance with now. Obviously, we're on them, and I think people who have this digital fluency have a leg up on some other people because they were able to have I'm working on it, but some people have just a natural ability to know and use a phone and have that with capture these moments. Not even that, it doesn't have to be polished anymore, just how to convey it and how to edit it into these things.
Yeah.
That's a incredible advantage if you know how to do it,
Yeah.
and do it
That
well.
makes sense.
But
I
to be
mean,
able to convert it, it's tough.
yeah. Yeah. The flash in the pan, it can be fun, but ultimately, if you want this for the long run, you need sustainable and you need retention and you need people coming back. So,
And a lot of people don't plan for success. So they will say, well, it's great. It's got a ton of people in here. How many people are you having working that day or that time to have a good experience, right? So if you usually have 100 people and you have 400 people walking in, are those 400 happy customers? Are those 40 happy customers and 360 people going, oh my God,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I always
and
see the
that's a
videos
different,
where the restaurant owner, their video went viral and then the next day they have to post something like, sorry, we couldn't handle it, or like,
yeah.
we weren't prepared for this. Hope you come back, this and that. I see that all the time too.
Yeah, especially for restaurants, you're trying to predictability is the name of the game, right? Because if you're spending too much on labor, got a situation. If you're spending not enough, situation, right? Or food, same thing, right? And finding that model of how do you have the freshest product possible to have the best ingredients and the best experience with being able to handle business and being able to do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Andy, I know we can go forever on, you know, finance topics for restaurants, but I want to
I'll go
dive
all day.
into yeah, I want to dive into Sandwell. Tell me how the concept came together, how you found your first location, build out cost, marketing, architecture, how much you had to invest. Give us all the numbers and the backstory.
Sure. So I mean, I'm a big fan of sandwiches from I think 3 years old. I remember my first food I made myself was putting something in there. And I've found pretty much anything can be a sandwich if you try hard enough. You got the right intention. You got the willpower. You can turn pretty much anything into a sandwich or close to it, even open faced or a little fold,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
you
you got
go.
sushi sandwiches, sushi
That's exactly
burritos. I mean,
right.
you have it's a crazy.
People just count as a hot dog a sandwich. Everything could be a sandwich. You
Yeah,
just gotta have the willpower and the vision to do it.
yeah,
And so it's something I found passionate with as I go. And I'm busy. So I've always been busy. I'm moving around. So it's also a natural combination of a walk and talk or in a meeting quickly or whatever it is that has led myself to having sandwiches a countless number of times throughout my life. And I've searched for a healthy-ish sandwich so many years where I can't justify just a burger on a Tuesday. Like they're delicious and I wish I could, but it's something that, I go, oh man, what have I done? Right. And as part of finding this balance where but if I have just a super basic salad or if I have a lettuce wrap, I'm gonna get a slice of pizza an hour later. That is how I'm hardwired, unfortunately.
Also true.
And so how to have this balance for something that's really good, really fresh, uh, you get a healthy-ish with these quality ingredients that don't leave you feeling gross afterwards, right? And I must have been to every sandwich shop and deli and bodega throughout all the tri-state area trying to find this and probably annoying all the counter guys saying, oh, just like put some mushrooms on there. Like, how do some sauce, but not too much sauce, right? Channeling probably inner Larry David. And it is something that was difficult to find. Like if this existed, I would just eat there every day. Um, but it didn't. And as I've gone through this process, especially having background in restaurants of trying to build something that I was really passionate about and something I really cared about, as well as something that was scalable as we could do it, right? Um, Working with the restaurants, it's really hard to recreate the magic of a little restaurant that is beautiful and precious and full of soul because each business is its own personality, its own soul that takes time to develop. Recreating that somewhere else is difficult, but looking to build something from the outset that was fun and I loved, and we could open a couple of them, was something I was very passionate about as we started doing this. So I live on Upper West Side. I walked by these buildings all the time, and I always thought they would make a great sandwich shop. It had the makings of what I was looking for, which is an original building, where it was a lot of original details within the store, on the exterior. It was an open space, it was wide enough for the counter, and it just felt like it was on the right block where it's got other retail stuff on it, but it's not store that feels crowded to the eye and to the experience where it feels like you're walking to an outdoor mall food court, walking down some of these blocks that have tiny stores just lining one after the other, going through it. So yeah, so that's is something that is percolating going through there, and you know, as we've gone through this, it sort of started to evolve where everything was started complementing in my mind of how it would flow together, right? So this combination of the concept, the space would need to support that concept. It's electrical only, so that how do you do the space to have that be beneficial both for operations and it's good for the environment, and it's good to create the best possible sandwich with that level of equal toasting within that, the branding and these different elements of it that all kind of coalesced as I was going through it over the space of maybe a year in conversations with friends and family.
Hmm.
So it went from just wouldn't this be fun making a ton of sandwiches to really a fully fleshed, scalable concept that we went through it. And so that's really this again, this vision where it's meant to be inclusive, not exclusive of healthy-ish, right? Where it is really just natural ingredients. It is things made cleanly, made well. If you need a PhD to understand an ingredient, we don't like to use it. If if it's got 27 letters inside of it, it's probably a tough one to sell. Um, and we don't have beef or pork or cream or butter or anything fried. Again, with a sense of that is leaning towards what can we have every day, right? This what do I want to eat every day and feel great about eating daily, rather than a special occasion thing or a I always think of some places where it's an incredible hero that's the size of football, but I get that every once in a while it's put with a couple people because that's all you can do with that, versus a community based business where people can come all the time and we get to know each other because you can feel good eating it regularly and it's there.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and the,
for the space that you guys found, how big is the space roughly? How much was the build out cost? How long did it take to even get open?
so it's about 1,000 feet, a little less. And it was, the things, I like to think if you get 85% right during a build out, you did a pretty good job. Because if you're so worried about the other 15%, they're not willing to make a decision and take risks, then you're going to end up with a pretty vanilla experience. If you're not looking for something exciting and different, and uniquely yourself. And so during the build out process, I think I learned a lot what was important, right? Our second store looks similar but different to the other one because it was a lot of lessons learned of what's really important core to our value or not, right? It's important to me to offer an affordable sandwich so that, in this day and age, it's pretty hard with gas prices quadrupling the price of tomatoes. But it is something that is core to who I am and who the store is to be able to offer as affordable sandwich as possible so that we can do so. And if you spend a fortune on a build out, you're going to either anger your customers or your investors. You're not going to find it. Someone's not going to be happy with you as you go through that process because there's got to be an alignment of that. So it's finding ways to use existing elements, right? What do you have to put in to make the concept work? Like we have our ovens that are toaster ovens, and how that line works is core to what we do. So that we have to make nice and we have to buy the right things to do it. Um, Other elements we'll figure out. Is that beautiful mosaic floor great? I love it. If I don't need to replace a floor, I'm not going to in the front of the store. And I like the natural wood floor of our second store and it also feels organic, right? Um, and so that's was really the process of feeling out process of what is essential, and as we grow, what is not, and all the things we get there. But that was really the first process. It took 5 months to open yeah. And yeah, a month of that was training and systems. Again, because it was our first store, it's like, okay, I have a recipe, but how do you make it in this kitchen? How do you make it scale with this mixer, right? Not the little mixer I was using in one of our other restaurants, right? How do you do
Hmm.
these things that make it who it is? For our second store where we opened it, it took us a month and a half, 2 months, and
To
about a
open?
third a bit to open, about a third of the price. And we knew that we've worked with these ovens before. We've worked with the systems before.
Mm.
We did a week of training in our first store. We did a week of training in the second store. We were open. And it's these things that are able to really translate with that as we go.
Mm.
You know,
And the first store, what was the cost? Was it like low six figures, mid six figures, high?
it was about mid six figures.
Okay,
And it was figuring out, yeah, that same process of what equipment we're getting and electrical upgrades to make sure we have all the right things and stuff like that.
got it, got
Yeah.
it.
It's since graduated to low six figures, which I'm happy about. Including which is a lot easier to expand and grow with it. Um, is to do low six figures, and that really includes everything, right? It includes rent, security deposit, training, inventory, all of that. Which again makes us feel good about offering affordable sandwiches and doing these things because we're not walking in and having to recoup $1 million expense overnight.
Yeah. And did you have to take on investors, or was this funded out of pocket?
Both. It's something that I am lucky to have the friends and family and people extended network that I do of people I go to for advice anyways, right? So people I've talked to about this and asking their counsel and saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think?" Right? And it was a pretty fortunate process, at least for me. A lot of it came up organically, and in the process of talking to people and getting their feedback on what we were doing and helping to fine tune the concept, a lot of people came along the way into the partnership group as a natural evolution through that. I've funded a lot of it, but it's also fun doing it together, and having that be a journey where everyone on our team who is an investor is someone I call often enough, and we'll talk and go through this and say, hey, I've got this thing going on. What do you think about this? Right? Like you're an incredible expert in this field. I have this application, I have this thought about how I want to expand this program for my employees or how I want to do this element, and it's something that is really great to be able to talk to people about what they're doing in their lives as they found success and learn from that. And so that's really been the positive version as we've gone through it, is up to this point having be a really great network of both. So it's you know
It's
everyone's
nice.
everyone's aligned to help this
Yeah,
go well.
that's great. And you guys opened the first location in 2023. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about how it's been doing. How was it the first few months, and then how is it doing currently?
So this is when I first said restaurant owners have to have the conversation of, from a CFO perspective, what do you have to do, right? How do you have to sustain it? How do you have to keep open if this is what you're doing on nights? It When we first opened, it was right there. And so I was glad I did that math to figure out what we needed to do. And if it was me there instead of other managers, how do we help keep this going while we are building out the brand and building out the name recognition and getting a game plan of what we do. Um, so it started off slower and we made some successes. We had some mistakes, and for the first about year, it did that, and it's something that I'm very grateful that I before I opened the doors and started this process, figured out what those numbers were to make sure it was sustainable. So that if we did this, we're there. If we were dipping below it, how do we do everything within our power to make it busy enough to get there so we're still okay while we're waiting for the next thing, right? And so
Hmm.
making the conscious decision to not open with hype and going viral meant we had to build organically day by day and sandwich by sandwich. Um, and after about the first year, it started really catching on. We revamped. The key really started when we used to have breakfast, and it was awesome, but it really distracted from what we did.
Mm,
So it meant we were had two different lineups. We had of food. We had cross utilizations of ingredients, but it was not
complex.
really the efficient thing. It was complex,
Yeah.
and we need to make it more simple. And we needed to really offer the same thing for the same amount of hours, but open into dinner and have that be doubling down on what we do great rather than trying to be everything to everyone. We still have some people come in and get super mad at us for not having breakfast. I'm like, sorry, I too wish I could eat this, but um, it was important for us to really focus on being great at a couple things rather than pretty good at a lot of them.
Yeah.
I
Makes sense.
we used to make a whole bunch of different kinds of bread. We make one kind of bread in house now, and we crush it. Right, so we're not worried about how much do we have in this one or that one. We have fresh bread just pouring out of the oven all day. It's the same kind of sub roll, and it's just fantastic. Rather than trying to balance some kind of inventory system or whatever it might be of the different breads we have there.
Yeah. How many sandwiches would you be selling on an average day or week now?
Five, 600 a day now, usually.
Wow.
At each store. It's depends on the day, right? So some days, but that's about average with catering and the things we do.
And what was it
Because
when you first started per store?
oh man, 70, 100, whatever it is, 100. Like
Wow.
it was, it inched up, and again, there was days when it was great and days when it wasn't. As we first started the process, as we were really trying to, we got such great feedback from customers, but how do we share that with people? How do we tell people what's going on? So it was, because on any given day we try to have a complementary overlap. So, we do a ton of catering for offices and private events throughout. So usually they're on different days and being super busy in the store. So it helps us have the same staffing and smoothness to it because we're able to, on the days we're catering for a whole office building in Midtown, we just have a normal Wednesday, and it's great, and it's a good
Yeah.
balance of all the things.
Yeah. How are you getting these corporate accounts? Because I know these can be like great for small businesses, especially for people who are doing like sandwiches or things that are easily caterable. Like
Hmm.
how do people even break into that space?
There's a couple different ways we do it. There is the most the biggest answer is being who we are day in, day out for 3 years. So that way, that has been when we deliver to someone for their regular experience, or we deliver to their office a great experience. And the second time, and the third time,
Hmm.
people begin to trust us to then feed their whole team, right? And so that was really it. Just started to snowball after a while because of that learned experience and trust that if we crushed it for the first 15 meals they had, that they could trust us with to be the person who said, let's do this, and not have it be a situation like I think we've all experienced at office lunches before.
Yeah.
Um,
So does it actually just start at the individual of like, hey, I'm like, Alan at X firm, and I'm like, I love Sandwell sandwiches, and then like, the assistant's like, hey, we need a catering, like, what sandwiches do you guys like? And it's like, oh, I like Sandwell, like, we should do it for this. Is that how it works, like, pretty
that
organically?
that is how it started,
Okay.
and from there we then do a decent amount of digital marketing and you know uh, um, online optimization, so that we can be the answer, whether you search with Google or Yelp or ChatGPT, where you could get some good sandwiches for catering. We
Yeah.
try to be up there.
And are you
Um,
doing that yourself, or are you using an outsourced SEO, ASO agency to help with that?
we do it ourselves.
Oh, okay.
This is the whole different path we go down, and a rabbit hole of how much I embrace and enjoy working with Claude to help us do these things and to help us really be successful on these fronts to optimize these things.
You
But
know,
it's
I've recently started asking people if they incorporate AI into their workflows for the past 4 or 5 guests, and everyone is adopting it, which is so cool because you wouldn't expect physical location businesses to necessarily be at the forefront of AI, but it's like these are AI is so good for small businesses and
I
so
think
good for physical businesses too.
I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough on this element. I think there's a lot of talk about how there's an impact of AI on service work and these different
Law,
elements
software development, yeah.
that it has a negative contributory element to the team or whatever it might be, and there's some real conversations and concerns about that are out there. For this, like I'm not uh, replacing our team making sandwiches with an AI agent, but what we are able to do is do things faster and more efficiently than we could have done before, and to tap a level of expertise I don't have. Right? So I can Google things, I can figure things out, but I'm not an overnight GEO expert, right? Going through this stuff, but to be able to tap something that's they're not going to be as good as perhaps a broader firm, but enough to help us get there is incredibly efficient for our small resources. I think that's actually makes more sense in my mind of the sense of retail businesses need to find every edge they can, right? Because their businesses focused on physical margin, not just service margin, right? And in doing so, how can you a couple points here and there is the world of difference.
Yeah,
That's how you go
totally.
from good to great to excellent.
Totally.
And so if you're able, so we as we go through it, we've got we called our whole Sandwise division of AI agents going through.
Wow, that's a fun
But
name, Sandwise. That's great.
my brother is a AI sales tech expert and consultant with this stuff, and he's also a partner with us. And so we'll generally have a Sandwise meeting in our in our overall catch ups of going through how to do this, so that we have a pretty strong AI agentic team helping us on a variety of different ways to help again support our team and support my efforts as a business owner to do that and reinvest into, the day-to-day operations and do that instead.
Yeah. So how are you guys getting yourselves to show up as the best sandwich for ChatGPT or Claude in the search?
It's a combination of where we are found online. It's how we're presenting ourselves on our website. It is, um, again, the day things we do well. It's You can't create other people's reactions and impressions of writing about you unless you do a good job, unless you serve a great sandwich, right? So some of the things we're doing, we're making sure that we are, presenting in the right way online. That is not just stuffing a million keywords into a page and saying, "Hi, we sell sandwiches, 7,000 words about food. Sincerely, Sandwell." Like there is a bit more of a balance to it, to be able to present. We haven't cracked the code completely, right? But we're trying the best we can to do that and to again be findable so that someone who's looking to cater for their office is able to find us, right? So that we can create these opportunities to get to know people and to form that connection, right? Because again, it all comes back to hospitality for us, and how do we use AI to help us be better at that? How do we use it to create these opportunities to connect with people? Because we still got to serve them lunch, and I want it to be an awesome lunch as they go through it.
Yes.
Um, and that's kind of that basis rather than AI for AI's sake. It's AI's for service sake, and how we're able to translate that into the physical world. I think that there's, again, broader conversation, but I think that there is a bit of a reckoning coming of people having a bifurcation of what industries are out there and having either be tangible elements and real world impact, or these big firms. And I think the more we can embrace being excellent at touching people's lives on a day-to-day basis in a real human way, again, a visceral way of having a great meal,
Yeah.
a great experience, the better.
Yeah. And you guys also do some pretty interesting and unique marketing,
Yeah,
tactics. Like like you have the flip for 50% off the sandwich. Is that right?
that's right. That's right.
Can you describe that quickly? How that works and like how you thought of the idea, and did you engineer it
Yeah.
to go viral, or like tell us
It
tell us the thoughts.
is something that is it came from a couple different places. To start with, we were looking for a way to really connect more with customers. We're really busy. We are busy. I would love to stop and chat with everybody, but during the lunch rush on any given day, I can't. Right? We're making sandwiches, and the New York way, I'd rather. I feel like most people would appreciate me not stopping and chatting, and instead making the sandwich as quickly as possible for them and a couple hundred people, right? And going through it. But I love hanging out. I love talking. I love chopping it up with customers. I love having this dynamic and dialogue that we just, have time to do in the middle of the day. We get busy for dinner, we're busy for lunch, but in the middle of the day, we have time. And we have our team on staff, and we want to get to know our customers on a physical basis. So it started with that premise of we want to have a happy hour that's in the middle of the day that encourages people to come into the store, not order online, not do the other things. Right? I
Mm,
love online ordering. We have our own program. We have a whole aspect of that to help it be efficient. But we want to get a chance to really hang out with our community in doing so. And then on the other side of this, the idea for the coin flip and the flip for 50, my brother went to school in New Orleans. I mean, he got a job as a bartender at 18 because there's no rules in New Orleans. And they gave him
true.
like the Friday at like 11 a.m. shift. And one person was like asleep in the bar, and he said, "Can I run a promotion?" I said, "Sure, but whatever you want to do. If you get people in here, we're good." And he did this. And the owner walked in the
Uh,
next Friday, and it was packed full of kids. And the guy was like, "What is happening here?" My brother's like, "I did flip for Fridays. What are you talking about?" And it's something that always stuck with me. One, because I like visiting and flip for Fridays. I thought it was fun. But two, it was fun. It just people come in, you
it
hang
is
out,
fun.
you win, we cheer. We lose, we'll get them next time, right? And you go through it. Sometimes had a bad day. I think I saw tails. We're good. And it's an opportunity to really connect and again, just like be excited and have something that's fun to do, generally for our staff, generally for the customers, right? And if someone comes in, there's no one in the world I'd rather give what's effectively a 25% discount, right? Like half of half.
Hmm.
We give that to DoorDash, and I don't let them. So this is something that this is I'd rather nothing what I'd rather do than to our own customers and offer that to them and have just a fun experience that naturally has gone a little viral and it's been engaging and people like to do it and film it and all the things with it. But it starts with the idea of just wanting to have fun and get to know our team, our community, and yeah, flip for it and
That's
cheer.
cool. I like it. I like it. Um, I know you have your second location open as well. What is the plan for Sandwell over the next few years? Are you hoping to open more locations in Manhattan, New York, tri-state area, beyond? Are you looking to franchise, corporate owned? Well, what are you thinking?
We're definitely looking to grow as we go through this. I like serving sandwiches. It's been a really awesome experience, and it's been incredibly rewarding of how much people have connected with this. Right? It's really been just such a awesome thing. You can have all the plans you want until you open the doors and serve people. You don't know what's going to happen next, right? And how it's going to be received and going through it. And so we're looking to grow. We're looking to grow sustainably again, so that we can be a part of this for a long time. Rather than having two stores, going from two to 200, that's too fast. Um, right. So starting in the city for now. I love the New York area. I love the New York region as we go through it, both in towns and surrounding boroughs and going through this process. And then seeing where we can grow. Our goal is definitely to grow brick by brick, and store by store over the next few years. Roughly double as we per year as we are able to do that. Um, but again, make sure we're able to do it in a way that feels good. Doesn't feel like what just happened here. And so that's really where I put a lot of time and thought and focus into is how do we build the right systems? How do we build the right ways to set our team up for success? I've always viewed opening more restaurants as a way to offer more opportunities to our team. So I think about it that if I'm hiring a manager, I'm probably failing my own team and not promoting someone. If I
Mm,
hadn't have someone ready to who's able to do that yet. So it's really focusing on that, focusing on their growth and focusing on creating an environment where people can grow within what we do so that we can, again, grow sustainably and grow well and have that same experience. You know, um, I think a lot of places open and again, they forget about that pie chart of what's important to go to a restaurant. They might have a great product, they might have systems, but if you're just trying to drop in culture, it's tough. And not do that as part of what you do.
yeah. And
Yeah.
in the first couple months, you were making the sandwiches yourself. You said you made 1,000 yourself. What are you doing now? How are you spending your time today?
So it's a good mix. When we have really busy days, I like to be there and help coaching through. Um, you know, I like to be around them a lot. Again, I like our menu is my 15-ish favorite sandwiches in the world. So I like to be around it and I like to be a part of it on a day-to-day basis. So I really view my job as to set our team up for success, is to how do I help them feel empowered to do it because I can't and shouldn't be in two places at once, right? So as we're looking to grow, if I'm on the line making sandwiches, small business things happen, and I'm happy to do it, and it's still my escape into life, right? So now with everything else going on, it's almost like, oh, three people called out. No, I have to go make sandwiches for 4 hours, and it's like my most peaceful time. Amidst the chaos and the food, it's still like my zen time of going through it. But I'm really focused on trying to, again, find some new locations in the city, find the right vendor partners, find the right kind of framework of what we're doing so that again as we grow and take those next steps they're done with intention and they're done well, to grow and feel good about it. When we opened the second store, we got to a certain point. I was like, hold on, I thought this was supposed to be harder. I've opened all these restaurants and they've all been so hard, each one.
Mm,
And, of course, it took me 40 years to get there. But it's the sense of each restaurant has its own soul, right? And you start off with this kernel of an idea, then it grows, right? Over time, the staff contributes to it. You have to nurture it and contribute to it. And it develops into something. And sometimes it's what you thought it might be. Sometimes it's different. That's interesting and okay. Um, but it's hard because you have to focus so much on it. And I focus so much on the store, Sandwell, now through this process, that creating a second one, I had the colors picked out, I had the tile picked out, I had the systems picked out. I was like, oh man, I should have been opening same restaurant over and over again for years.
yeah.
So
It's
it
probably,
had, so it's making it now. That feeling was good, and trying to make it again. How am I able to set up systems now so that when we open the next one, I feel that same way, even more so. Man, that was opening restaurant should be hard. That was pretty easy. Good.
that's the first time I've heard that. So that's really good. If
I
it's
was
feeling that
shocked.
way, that means you have some great systems and processes in place.
It was unexpected version of that. I'll tell you.
That's
I'm used
great.
to I'm used to blood, sweat, and tears. And it wasn't easy, but it was definitely not the same as recreating everything from scratch. And that was such a big lesson in the moment of, here's what you do. Friends who've done this before, who have restaurants and expanded them. Look, one, you think one's the hardest. Two is often harder because you have to make sure you are out of the restaurant. You have to make sure you are teaching people these things and focusing your culture. But once you do that, which I was the hardest thing for me, was not the building the store, but was the taking me out of it, and doing so, it ended up being a pretty good process.
Nice. Andy, I know we're wrapping up on time here, but I wanted to ask you, looking back over the last 3 years of starting Sandwell and with the knowledge that you have now, is there anything you would have changed if you can go back in time?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, Sometimes as you go through this, or as I've gone through this process, it is, I think about that of like, man, what if I'd done this, right? I could have saved myself so much money. I could have saved myself so much this. I could have connected with that person, whatever it might be. But it is all, so I'm not saying there's nothing I would have done differently, because that would be a lie. But it is has been it's hard to separate what growth has come through conflict or not, right? What innovation has come through necessity of being like, well, we have to do this for payroll. I need to do this. How are we going to get there? And that creates this element to grow, right? That creates this aspect of it. And I think that, there are times when we first opened where I had these wildly complex specials, and our staff is like, what are you doing? This is here, right?
Yeah.
And it was something that I learned a lot from, to be simple and do these processes, right? And so there were some of those expensive mistakes, some of them were not so, but I think I've tried to learn from them all and really embrace that and find that silver lining through it. Uh, Especially because I try to look forward and learn, but how to act next, rather than agonizing over what's happened or not. You know, I think part of it was thinking more every time that I thought about what I felt like I really should do, what I really thought was best for it, rather than what I should do. It's always worked out well. And every time I've been like, man, I guess I should do this. Pretty universally, it's gone wrong.
Mm,
Um, of the sense of, well, all businesses do this, we should do that. And every business is unique in its own small way. So I think finding that right fit and identity of self and staying aligned to that every step of the way. That's been the biggest lesson for me, has been almost every time that I'm like, ah, but this once I'm just gonna do it or I'm just gonna do it. I know it's not what we do. I'm gonna do it like this anyways. It's backfired every time I face, sometimes
Mm,
spectacularly. And instead of being confident enough to take those leaps, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, but it it always felt more naturally authentic and better set up for success long term when I was able to do that. If that makes sense.
yeah. Sage advice to be yourself. Don't do things just for the sake of doing them or because that's the way it should be done. I
Well,
uh, I,
there's
I
a lot
totally
of
agree with that.
there's a lot of boring restaurants out there. You
Yeah,
know,
it is. There.
there's a lot of places that don't stand for anything. There's a lot of places that, again, where I try to be positive all the time. So it's like they can do whatever they want, but we have to stand for something. We can't be boring, right? As we go through it. And I think yeah, try not to fall into that trap and just to be interesting and maybe a little weird and have some fun. And I don't know, I wouldn't have that any other way.
There you go. Andy, this is awesome. If people want to follow along or get in touch, what's the best way for them to do so?
Follow us at Get Sandwell or visit us online at getsandwell.com.
All right. Well, thanks, Andy. Excited to try more of your sandwiches. And yeah, thanks again for an awesome time.
Thanks, Alan. Absolute pleasure.